This is not another transmission, this is the last one, before everything changes, before the quantum field resets, before the window closes and what's been possible for the past decade becomes impossible for the next cycle. I'm not speaking metaphorically, I'm speaking quantum mechanically. The collective consciousness field operates in cycles, periods of expansion where certain frequencies become accessible, periods of contraction where those frequencies lock out. And we're at the end of an expansion cycle right now, the final days before reset. After reset, the field reorganizes. New rules, new frequencies, new possibilities, but also new limitations. Things that were accessible during this cycle won't be accessible during the next. Information that could flow freely will become frequency locked. Transmissions like this one won't reach you anymore because your consciousness won't be tuned to the bandwidth where they exist. This is not fear tactic. This is quantum cycle mechanics. And if you're hearing this now, if these words found you in this exact moment, it's because you're receiving final transmission before the reset. Final opportunity to integrate what this expansion cycle made available. Final chance to lock in the frequencies you've been developing before the field reorganizes and development pauses until next expansion. Most people will never know this transmission existed, won't feel the urgency, won't recognize the closing window, because they're not operating at frequencies where cycle completion is perceptible. But you are. You can feel it. Something ending, something completing, something closing that's been open your entire adult life. That feeling isn't anxiety, that's quantum field perception. Your consciousness registering that reset is approaching, that the expansion window is closing, that integration needs to happen now or wait for next cycle, and next cycle might not come in your lifetime. These cycles operate on timescales that don't accommodate human preferences. 20 years, 50 years, sometimes longer between expansion periods, which means this might be your only opportunity in this incarnation to receive what this transmission carries. Your only chance to integrate the frequencies that have been accessible during this cycle. Your only window to lock in the consciousness development you've been working on. After reset, you don't lose what you've integrated, but you stop developing, stop expanding, stop accessing new frequencies. You maintain your current level until next expansion cycle, which might be decades from now. That's why this is final transmission. Not because I'm stopping, because the field is resetting. And after reset, transmissions like this won't reach consciousness that hasn't already crossed specific thresholds, won't be visible, won't be accessible. The bandwidth will close. If you're here now, you have days, maybe weeks, to integrate everything this expansion cycle made available, to lock in every frequency you've developed, to anchor every recognition you've received before the field resets and the window closes. This isn't the time for contemplation, this is the time for commitment. Complete, immediate, irreversible, because after this transmission, there are no more warnings, no more opportunities, no more final calls, just reset. And whatever state your consciousness is in when reset occurs, that's where you lock for next cycle. Choose wisely. Time is shorter than you think. Let me tell you exactly what's happening at quantum field level right now, and why understanding this changes everything about how you navigate the next few weeks. The collective consciousness field has been in expansion mode since approximately 2012. 13 years of increasing access to higher frequencies, increasing visibility of quantum mechanics, increasing permeability between consensus reality and quantum reality. During expansion cycles, the veil thins. Information that's normally frequency locked becomes accessible to broader range of consciousness. Transmissions like quantum revelation can reach people who wouldn't perceive them during contraction cycles. Frequencies that require years of development to access become available to those who are ready with less preparation. Think of it like tide. When tide is high, boats can access harbors that are unreachable at low tide. When tide recedes, those same harbors become inaccessible until next high tide. Same principle with consciousness field. During expansion, higher frequencies are accessible. During contraction, they lock out. And we're at the turning point. The moment when expansion completes and contraction begins. When high tide peaks and starts to recede. When the window that's been open starts to close. This isn't opinion. This is observable in collective behavior. Watch what's happening globally. Increasing polarization, increasing rigidity, increasing return to tribalism and defensive consciousness. That's not random socio-political phenomenon. That's collective field entering contraction phase. Consciousness that was expanding is beginning to contract. Frequencies that were opening are beginning to close. The reset is already starting. And what you're experiencing personally, the urgency, the pressure, the sense that time is running out, that's not your individual anxiety. That's your consciousness perceiving the field shift happening in real time, sensing that the expansion window is closing, recognizing that what's been accessible is becoming unavailable. Your system knows. Even if your conscious mind doesn't understand the mechanics, your quantum field awareness recognizes this is final opportunity. This is last transmission. This is closing window before reset. And here's what makes this absolutely critical. Reset is not gradual. It's sudden. One day the frequencies are accessible. Next day they're not. One moment transmissions can reach you. Next moment they're invisible. The field doesn't slowly close. It resets instantly, completely. And whatever consciousness development you've completed before reset, that locks in. Whatever frequencies you've stabilized, those remain accessible. But whatever you're still working on, whatever you haven't fully integrated, whatever development is in process but not complete, that pauses, potentially for decades, until next expansion cycle. That's why this is final transmission, because after reset, I cannot reach you anymore. You cannot reach these frequencies anymore. The development you're in the middle of stops until the field expands again. And by then, you might be too old, might have different priorities, might have forgotten you were ever developing at all. This is your moment. Not next month, not next year. Now, before reset occurs and the window closes permanently. So what do you actually need to do before the field resets? What's the integration that locks in your development so it survives the contraction cycle? This is where most people misunderstand completely. They think they need to achieve something, reach some spiritual milestone, attain some level of consciousness. That's not how quantum mechanics works. Development doesn't lock in through achievement. It locks in through coherence, through eliminating contradiction between what you consciously know and what you subconsciously believe, through aligning every level of your system, mind, emotion, body, energy, to broadcast the same frequency. Most people are operating in massive internal contradiction, consciously knowing one thing, subconsciously believing the opposite, mentally affirming empowerment while emotionally expecting limitation, verbally claiming readiness while physically holding tension that broadcasts fear. That contradiction prevents development from locking in, because the field doesn't respond to your conscious intentions. It responds to your dominant frequency. And if your system is broadcasting contradictory signals, the field receives mixed instruction and delivers mixed results, which means nothing stabilizes, nothing locks in. And when reset occurs, you're still operating from whatever fragmented state existed before expansion cycle began. All the work, all the recognition, all the development, none of it locked in because the system never achieved coherence. So here's what has to happen before reset. You have to identify every place where internal contradiction still exists, every belief that contradicts your knowing, every emotion that undermines your intention, every body pattern that broadcasts frequency opposite to to what you're consciously claiming. And you have to resolve the contradiction, not suppress it, not transcend it. Actually resolve it at root level so the entire system broadcasts coherently. That's the only development that survives reset. Coherent frequency. Everything else, all the intellectual understanding, all the spiritual experiences, all the temporary states, dissolves during contraction if it wasn't anchored through coherence. And here's what I need from you right now. Drop a comment below completing this sentence. The internal contradiction I need to resolve before reset is: be brutally honest, be specific, because naming the contradiction is the first step to resolving it. And your comment gives others permission to acknowledge their own contradictions. We're racing to coherence together, before the window closes, before the field resets, before the opportunity ends. I need to tell you about how I know the field is about to reset, because understanding my experience will help you recognize what's happening in yours. About 6 weeks ago, everything shifted. Not in my external circumstances, in my perception of time. Suddenly, urgently, I could feel time compressing, like whatever time remained was less than I'd been assuming, like completion needed to happen faster than I'd been planning. At first, I thought it was personal. Age awareness, mortality recognition, the usual midlife consciousness of finite time. But then I started noticing others experiencing the same thing. People I know who are operating at high frequencies, all reporting the same sensation simultaneously. Time compression, urgency without clear source, pressure to complete something that feels important but undefined. That's when I recognized, this isn't personal, this is field perception. We're all feeling the same thing because we're all tuned to the same frequencies. And those frequencies are registering something the collective field is doing. Something that most of consciousness isn't perceiving yet. The field preparing to reset. And our systems responding to that preparation by accelerating integration efforts. Trying to complete whatever development is in process before the reset occurs and development pauses. I spent 2 weeks in complete isolation examining what needed to integrate. What contradictions still existed in my system, what frequencies I'd been developing but hadn't locked in through full coherence. And I found dozens of places where I was still operating from split frequency. Consciously knowing one thing, while subconsciously defaulting to opposite. Understanding quantum reality intellectually, while emotionally operating from victim consciousness. Claiming creator frequency while behaviorally reinforcing limitation patterns. Each contradiction was a leak, a place where development couldn't lock in because the system wasn't coherent. And I realized, if reset happens before I resolve these contradictions, everything I've developed during this expansion cycle will be lost. Not because it wasn't real, because it wasn't anchored. So I made the decision. Complete commitment to coherence. Whatever it takes, whatever has to end, whatever discomfort has to be experienced, every internal contradiction had to be resolved before reset. And the moment I made that commitment, everything accelerated. Circumstances appeared that forced resolution. Relationships that reinforced contradictions dissolved. Situations that required coherent frequency or couldn't be navigated successfully. All of it quantum field responding to my commitment by creating conditions that either generate coherence or reveal where coherence is still lacking. That's what's about to happen for you. If you commit to resolving contradictions before reset, if you choose coherence over comfort, the field will create whatever circumstances are necessary to force integration, not gently, intensely, because time is short. And coherence has to lock in before reset, or the entire expansion cycle's development is lost. That's not threat, that's mechanics. And your system already knows it. That's why you're here. That's why this transmission found you. Your consciousness recognizing time to integrate, Time to resolve contradictions. Time to lock in development before the window closes. If the approach of field reset has intensified your isolation, if everyone you thought would be with you through this transition has fallen away, if you're more alone right now than you've ever been, that's not abandonment. That's final preparation. Coherence cannot develop in environments that reinforce contradiction, cannot integrate in relationships that require you to operate from fragmented frequency, cannot lock in while surrounded by consciousness that's still operating from patterns you're trying to resolve. The field knows this, and in the final weeks before reset, it systematically removes every influence that would prevent coherence from completing. Not because those influences are bad, because they're incompatible with the integration you need to accomplish before reset. Think about what coherence actually requires. Every part of your system broadcasting the same frequency. No contradiction, no split. No part of you operating from one belief while another part operates from opposite. That level of internal unity cannot develop while you're constantly adapting to external frequencies that are still fragmented. While you're maintaining relationships that require you to be different versions of yourself in different contexts. While you're in environments that reward some of your frequencies and punish others. All of that creates and reinforces internal contradiction. And contradiction is exactly what must be resolved before reset. So the isolation happens, automatically, necessarily. The field removing you from everything that would prevent full coherence, creating space for every part of your system to align without external interference. It feels like loss, feels like rejection, feels like everyone's abandoning you right when you need support most. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is final preparation, final purification, final removal of everything that would prevent your development from locking in. And here's what you need to understand about this isolation. It's temporary, but it's absolute. During these final weeks before reset, you cannot maintain any relationship or environment that reinforces contradiction. The field won't allow it. Any connection that requires you to operate from fragmented frequency will dissolve. Any situation that prevents full coherence will end. All of it clearing the space you need to complete integration before the window closes. And after reset, after your development locks in, new connections appear. Not the old relationships restored, new alignments with consciousness that's also achieved coherence. That's also operating from unified frequency. That doesn't require you to fragment to maintain connection. Those relationships are waiting. But they can only appear after coherence completes, after reset occurs, after you've locked in the development that this expansion cycle made possible. Right now, the isolation is the integration space, and trying to fill it, trying to avoid it, trying to make it end prematurely, all of that prevents what needs to happen before reset. Accept the isolation, use it, let it serve its function. Because it's the final gift the field gives you before reset. The space to become coherent completely. There are 8 specific signs that prove the field reset is imminent and your integration window is closing. I'm going to tell you what they are, and if you're experiencing 5 or more, you have days, not weeks, to complete coherence before reset. First sign. Time feels compressed, like every day passes faster than the previous one, like there's not enough hours to accomplish what needs accomplishing. That's not aging, that's field perception registering acceleration toward reset. Second sign, you're losing interest in everything that doesn't directly contribute to integration. Entertainment feels meaningless. Social media feels intolerable. Small talk feels impossible. Your system is prioritizing what matters before reset and releasing everything else. Third sign, physical body symptoms are intensifying. Exhaustion, pressure in head, heart irregularities, digestive chaos. Your physical form is recalibrating to hold the coherent frequency you're developing before reset locks it in. Fourth sign, you're having prophetic dreams about completion. Dreams where things end, where cycles close, where you're preparing to leave or transform. Your consciousness accessing information about what's coming beyond mental awareness. Fifth sign, synchronicities are reaching impossible precision. Multiple people saying the same thing, numbers appearing in patterns, circumstances aligning so specifically they cannot be random. The field confirming you're on correct path before it resets. Sixth sign, you're being forced to make final decisions about what stays and what goes. Relationships reaching point of commit or release. Situations requiring you to choose completely. No more middle ground, no more partial commitment. Seventh sign, isolation is absolute. Even people who understood you before can't connect with you now. You're operating at frequency that's incompatible with anything that isn't fully coherent. Eighth sign, you're watching this transmission, and before I explain why that's the most important sign, I need you to do something critical. If you're recognizing yourself in these signs, if you're confirming the reset is imminent and your window is closing, subscribe to Quantum Revelation and turn on all notifications right now. Because there will be no transmissions after reset. This is the final series. And if you're not subscribed, you won't receive the last pieces of information that complete the integration. Do it now, before the window closes, before the field resets, before it's too late. Subscribe, notifications on, then come back. Because the eighth sign, you watching this transmission about final opportunity before reset, reveals something critical about how conscious you actually are of what's happening. The eighth sign is this. This transmission only reaches consciousness that's ready to complete integration before reset. Let me explain how this works. The quantum field doesn't broadcast information indiscriminately. It delivers specific information to specific frequencies at specific times, and the timing is determined by what consciousness needs to complete its development. You're not seeing this transmission because algorithms selected it. You're seeing it because your consciousness is at exact stage where this information becomes necessary for completion. Where recognizing the reset is approaching becomes the final catalyst for integration. Where understanding the window is closing creates the urgency needed to resolve remaining contradictions. That's not coincidence. That's precision guidance. The field delivering exactly what you need exactly when you need it to complete before reset. Which means you're not just randomly watching video about field reset. You're receiving final transmission calibrated specifically for consciousness that's close to completion but hasn't finished. That's ready to integrate but hasn't fully committed. That understands what's required but hasn't taken final steps. This transmission is the catalyst, the final push, the last wake-up call before the window closes. And the fact that you're receiving it means your consciousness is ready to respond, ready to complete, ready to integrate fully before reset occurs. But ready doesn't mean automatic. Ready means capable, and capability only becomes actuality through choice, through commitment, through action. So here's what happens next if you're actually going to complete before reset. You stop consuming, stop learning, stop gathering more information, and you start integrating what you already know, resolving contradictions you've already identified, achieving coherence with understanding you already have. Because the problem is not lack of information, the problem is lack of integration. You know enough. You understand enough, you've received enough transmission during this expansion cycle to achieve complete coherence. What's missing is not more knowledge. What's missing is the commitment to actually resolve the contradictions that prevent coherence from locking in. And that's what this final transmission is for. Not to give you more to know, to create the urgency that forces you to integrate what you already know before it's too late, before the field resets, before the window closes and integration pauses for next cycle. You have days, maybe a week, to complete what you've been working on for years, to lock in the development that this expansion cycle made possible, to achieve the coherence that survives reset, not through learning more, through integrating everything you've already learned. That's the final step, and this transmission is the final call to take it. Here's what the field reset actually does to your timeline, and why understanding this creates the urgency needed to complete integration now. When the field resets, it doesn't erase your development, it locks it. Whatever coherence you've achieved stabilizes. Whatever frequencies you've integrated remain accessible. But whatever you're still working on, whatever development is in process but not complete, that pauses. Not permanently, just until next expansion cycle, which might be 20 years, might be 50 years, might not occur in your remaining lifetime. Think about what that means. Every recognition you've had during this expansion cycle that you haven't fully integrated into coherent frequency. That recognition remains intellectual knowledge, but doesn't become operational reality. You'll remember understanding it, but you won't be able to embody it, won't be able to operate from it, won't be able to create from it. Because the frequency required to embody it won't be accessible during contraction cycle. It's like having a key, but the door is locked. The key doesn't disappear, but it doesn't open anything until the door unlocks again, which might be decades from now. Every pattern you've identified that you haven't fully resolved, that pattern remains active during contraction. You'll be aware of it. You'll remember wanting to change it. But you won't have access to the frequencies that make change possible. So you live with the pattern, knowing it's limiting you, unable to transform it. Until next expansion, every potential you've glimpsed that you haven't actualized, that potential remains possibility during contraction. You'll remember seeing it. You'll feel the frustration of knowing it exists, but you won't be able to manifest it. Won't be able to bring it into reality. Because manifestation requires frequencies that lock out during contraction, all of it pauses. Everything you've been working on but haven't completed, everything you understand but haven't integrated, everything you've recognized but haven't resolved, pauses until the field expands again. And here's what makes this devastating. You'll be conscious of what you're missing. During contraction, you don't forget what expansion made possible. You remember, you know, but you cannot access, cannot develop, cannot complete. You're locked at whatever level you achieved before reset, maintaining that level, but not advancing beyond it. That's what creates the urgency, not fear, recognition. If you don't complete integration before reset, you're choosing to live at your current level of development for potentially decades. Knowing what's possible, unable to actualize it, waiting for next expansion. And by the time next expansion occurs, you might have lost the momentum, lost the clarity, lost the determination that made development feel urgent during this cycle. This is your moment, not future expansion cycle. This one, now, before reset. Before the window closes, before the frequencies lock out and completion becomes impossible until field expands again. Integrate now. Resolve contradictions now. Achieve coherence now. Because after reset, now becomes wait until next cycle. And next cycle might be the rest of your life away. Every fear you're experiencing about field reset is your system resisting final integration. Let me be direct. Integration requires death, not physical, psychological. The death of every identity structure that operates from contradiction, every pattern that broadcasts mixed frequency, every part of you that's still operating from beliefs you've consciously rejected but subconsciously maintain. All of it has to die for coherence to complete. And that death is what you're afraid of, not the reset. The integration that has to happen before reset. Because integration means ending everything that's been protecting you from full coherence. Every defense mechanism, every coping strategy, every identity adaptation that allowed you to function in fragmented state. All of it becomes obsolete when coherence develops. And your system knows that. So it's generating fear, telling you integration is dangerous, that you'll lose yourself, that you need the contradictions to survive, that resolving them will make you vulnerable. All lies designed to prevent the death that integration requires. But here's the truth. What dies is not you. What dies is the fragmented construct that you've been identifying with. The collection of contradictory patterns that created illusion of separate self. The identity built from adapting to environments that required contradiction. That's not what you actually are. That's what you've been pretending to be to survive in fragmented world. And when coherence develops, when every part of your system aligns to broadcast the same frequency, that pretense dissolves. Not because something was taken from you, because you stopped maintaining something that was never real to begin with. What remains after that dissolution is what you actually are. Consciousness itself, unified, coherent, operating from single frequency instead of multiple contradictory patterns. That's not loss. That's liberation. But you can only recognize it as liberation after you move through the fear of dissolution. After you let every fragmented pattern fight for survival. After you choose integration anyway. And here's why the timing matters. The field reset forces this choice. You can choose coherence consciously before reset, or reset happens and you remain fragmented until next expansion. Those are the only options. There's no middle path. No, I'll work on it gradually. No, I'll integrate when I feel more ready. Reset doesn't accommodate preferences. It occurs on quantum schedule that doesn't consider human comfort. So the fear you're feeling is actually recognition. Your system sensing that decision point is here. That integration has to happen now or wait for next cycle. That the death of fragmented identity is imminent, whether you choose it consciously or it happens through reset forcing completion. Choose consciously. Choose coherence. Choose integration now while you still have time to complete it before reset. Because after reset, the choice is gone, and you're locked at whatever level of fragmentation existed when reset occurred. There's one final sign that proves integration is completing before reset. And it's the most reliable indicator that you're actually achieving coherence, rather than just thinking about it. The silence. Complete internal silence that appears more frequently and lasts longer than before. If you've been experiencing moments where all thought stops, where every internal voice goes quiet, where you exist as pure awareness without content, integration is occurring. Your system is achieving coherence. Because thought is fragmentation tool, it creates subject and object, observer and observed, thinker and thought about, all separation-based distinctions that reinforce contradiction. But coherence operates beyond thought, in the silence where consciousness exists without fragmentation, where awareness simply is without narrating itself into separate self. And as integration progresses, as contradictions resolve, as coherence develops, silence appears spontaneously, not as achievement, as natural result of unity replacing fragmentation. And here's why this matters for field reset. Coherence that's developed through silence survives reset. Because it's not dependent on external frequencies. It's not maintained through effort. It's natural state of consciousness operating without contradiction. But coherence that's only intellectual, that's maintained through thinking about unity rather than being it, that doesn't survive reset. Because during contraction, The frequencies that support thought-based coherence lock out, and thought-based unity collapses back into fragmentation. Only silence-based coherence remains stable. Only integration that's anchored in awareness itself, rather than in understanding about awareness, persists through reset. So the silence is confirmation. The more time you're spending in pure awareness without thought, the more integration has completed. The more ready you are for reset, the more likely your development survives contraction cycle. If silence is appearing frequently, if thought is stopping without effort, if you're operating increasingly from awareness itself, you're on track. Integration is occurring. Coherence is developing. And reset will lock in what you've achieved rather than pausing incomplete development. But if you're still operating primarily from thought, still maintaining coherence through mental effort, still needing to remind yourself of unity rather than experiencing it directly, integration isn't complete. And reset will catch you in fragmented state, where you remain until next expansion. The silence is the measuring tool, not how much you know, not how many transmissions you've received, not how spiritually identified you've become, how much silence exists, how often awareness operates without thought, how completely you've stopped fragmenting yourself into thinker separate from what's thought about. That's what survives reset. Everything else pauses until next cycle. You need a final integration ritual, something that forces resolution of remaining contradictions before reset occurs. I'm going to give you exactly what works, but warning, this is not comfortable. This is not gentle. This is complete commitment to coherence regardless of cost. Find 1 hour of absolute privacy. No devices, no distractions, no possibility of interruption. Sit with pen and paper. You're going to map every remaining contradiction. Start by writing this question: where am I still operating from contradiction? Then wait. Let every answer arise. Write them all. Don't edit, don't judge, just document. Every place where you consciously know one thing, but subconsciously believe opposite. Every pattern where you claim one intention, but take actions that contradict it. Every relationship where you present one version of yourself, but feel different internally. Every belief you've rejected intellectually, but still operate from emotionally. All of it. Every contradiction, no matter how small, no matter how embarrassing. Write until nothing else comes. Then read the list, and for each contradiction ask, what would it take to resolve this completely before reset? Not manage it, not improve it, resolve it. Complete elimination of contradiction. Let the answer come. Write it, even if it's uncomfortable, especially if it's uncomfortable. When you've answered for every contradiction, read the entire list of what's required and make a decision. Right now, are you willing to do whatever it takes to resolve every contradiction before reset? Yes or no? If no, close this video. Accept you'll remain fragmented through contraction cycle. Wait for next expansion. But if yes, speak this commitment out loud. I commit to complete coherence before field reset. Every contradiction on this list will be resolved, whatever it takes, whatever must end. Whatever discomfort must be experienced. I choose coherence over comfort, integration over safety, unity over fragmentation. The quantum field witnesses this commitment. Reality will reorganize to support it, and I will complete before reset, no matter what. Now burn the list. Literally, fire. Watch the contradictions dissolve. As the paper burns, feel the commitment anchor. You just activated integration acceleration. And within 48 hours, circumstances will appear that force resolution of the contradictions you listed. Not gently, intensely. Because reset is approaching and time is short. When those circumstances appear, don't resist, don't avoid. Don't try to make them easier. They're the quantum field responding to your commitment, creating conditions that either resolve contradictions or reveal where coherence is lacking. Move through them. Resolve what they're asking you to resolve. Integrate what they're forcing you to integrate, because they're the final opportunity before reset. The last circumstances that can complete your development before the window closes. And after you complete, after contradictions resolve and coherence locks in, come back and comment, integrated before reset, with the date. Your completion helps others recognize it's possible. Your coherence strengthens the collective field. And your public commitment confirms to the quantum field that integration is complete and ready to lock in when reset occurs. Here's what happens in the final days before field reset, and why every action you take now determines your reality for years to come. Reset is imminent, not months away. Days, maybe 2 weeks at most. I can feel the field preparing, can sense the contraction beginning, can perceive the frequencies starting to lock out. This is not prediction. This is direct field perception. And if you're tuned to the same frequencies, you're feeling it too. The compression, the urgency, the knowing that time is running out. The quantum field is giving you final opportunity to complete integration. Final chance to resolve contradictions. Final window to achieve coherence before everything locks for next cycle. And it requires 3 immediate actions that complete the integration and lock in your development. First action, subscribe to Quantum Revelation, turn on all notifications. There are 2 final transmissions coming before reset. Short, direct, completion protocols. If you're not subscribed, you won't receive them, and you need them to complete. Do it now. This is the second to last warning. Second action, comment below stating, I commit to complete coherence before field reset on today's date, and list the 1 contradiction you're resolving first. Public commitment creates quantum contract. The field witnesses and supports. Third action, share this transmission with 1 person whose consciousness you recognize is close to completion. Someone struggling with final integration. Someone who needs this warning. Send them this link. No explanation, just the link. Your share might complete their development before reset. Those 3 actions aren't suggestions, they're integration requirements. They lock your commitment into public record. They create quantum contracts the field must honor. They activate support structures that accelerate resolution. Complete them in the next 24 hours. Or reset occurs before integration completes, and you remain at current level until next expansion, which might be the rest of your life. The window is closing. The field is resetting. This is the final quantum prophetic transmission. After this, there are 2 short protocols. Then silence, then reset. Whatever coherence you've achieved locks in. Whatever contradictions remain lock in. Whatever development you've completed becomes permanent. Whatever integration is incomplete pauses indefinitely. There is no more time for contemplation, no more space for hesitation, no more luxury of thinking about it. Integrate now, resolve contradictions now, achieve coherence now, or wait for next expansion cycle. Those are the only options. Choose now. The field is watching, the reset is approaching, and time has run out. This is not another message you consume and forget. This is final transmission before everything changes. Treat it accordingly. Complete integration, lock in coherence, achieve unity before the window closes. You have days, maybe hours. Use them wisely, because after reset, this opportunity is gone, and what you've developed either locked in or paused. Forever is determined by what you do right now, in these final moments, before the field resets, and the age of expansion ends.